to the Love Foundry podcast. It's December 20th, 24, creeping into the darkest day of the year. So Dan's going to shed some light on empowering your life with love. So we have Seb back from Jolly Old. He's still there, but we have him with us.
Here.
We got Dan and me from Maui. So we got California, Maui, and that other island.
Wherever you're lost in England. Are you out in Sussex?
Yeah, I'm in Sussex.
Fantastic. Yeah. Wherever that is.
Wherever.
Is that near the Tor?
I don't know where the Tor is.
Are you English?
Barely. I think
that's the well that has the two colored waters and all of that goes back to Camelot and all that jazz.
I have no idea where that is.
Well, you know what you're doing Christmas Day.
Yeah, go to the Tor.
All right. Well, anyway, hello everyone, and Merry Christmas and Kwanzaa. Is that now anywhere? When do they have Kwanzaa?
Wrong crowd, Dan. Wrong crowd.
Oh, that's right. Well,
the date is written on the Tor that I haven't found yet.
I've got a whole family full of Kwanzaa folk, and I don't even know. And Hanukkah, is that around here too?
I think it starts actually Christmas this year, either Christmas Eve or Christmas Day.
So well, that's kind of fortuitous. Cool. Let's get it all wrapped into one spot, and then we can all have a big celebration. I would like to do a podcast. Welcome back, guys. We haven't done a couple of them without you two, and that's lonesome in the empty space. But I'd like to do a little short conversation on empowering ourselves with love relative to devotion, which is something that is a subject. Now, I don't know. Seb, what do you know about devotion? Being a staunch Catholic, what are you? Are you a Presbyterian, a Catholic, a Protestant?
Well, I was raised Protestant, but my dad's a Catholic, so I kind of, for certain
so
things,
Anglican. Oh, your dad's Italian, isn't he?
Yeah.
So you were Anglican, which is compliments of Henry VIII.
Yeah.
And Catholic. I had that same sort of experience because I got grandfathers from England and grandfathers from Ireland and grandfathers from Scotland, and I don't know where the rest go. Germany. In fact, I'm the product of that argument, fortunately, because my parents got into a big argument a long time ago about how the kids were going to be raised. They'd already had my brother John, who by that time was like 3, right? So he's too young to be anything but baptized, which is okay, because if you're a Protestant, my mom was a Episcopalian coming from the English side, which is like a lightweight Catholic, sort of an Anglican plus kind of person, which are mellow folk. And my dad, being a McTagg, was Scotch-Irish and very Catholic. He had a whole family full of Catholics and stuff like that. So they got in a big argument over it. And in a huff, he leaves. Okay, that's it then. So you think this whole thing of people splitting up over nothing is not a new thing. We're capable of doing it all the way back. But of course, he's got one kid, and a young, pretty wife that was the belle of the ball. So, and he's in Alaska. So he thought it through a little bit.
He came back.
He came back on Christmas Eve. I'm sure with lots of goodies. And 9 months later, the Virgo is born. I don't know how you got into the world, Taylor, but you're a Virgo too, right? Mm-hmm. Probably some silly story similar to that. Anyway, that's how it works. Seb, when were you born? You're probably just a sheer accident, huh? Just
February.
Sportsmanlike conduct resulting in...
Yeah, no one's born in February on purpose. It's always...
No. Well, by the way, Lincoln was born in February. It's the month of death, which is when everything just gives up and freezes. So devotion, let's go back to where I get sidetracked with you guys. Devotion's a really good thing. So in the end, you're devoted to nothing. Is that what we got out of you?
No, I'm not devoted to nothing, but Devotion, I think, is something I need to grow far more of.
You what?
Need to grow more of.
Ah,
I feel like I need to,
well, you have any particular target, or are you just going to generally grow
yes, to love.
devotion like yeast in a dough or something? Then later you'll turn it into donuts or bread or whatever it wants to be.
No, to love itself, because I
Ah,
think it's the only way that I want to move forward with my life and with others. And I think it's something that takes constant devotion.
okay. So devotion, for the definition of devotion for you would be then something like energy directed towards for a purpose. What? I don't quite know how you define devotion, or I do for that matter.
Well, yeah, that's true. I might be defining it incorrectly, but it's, I mean, just energy directed, I think, is more will. Devotion is when I feel like it's you give up of yourself for it.
Right. I think that's an excellent way to describe it. I mean, Picasso's devoted to art, and to probably the pretty much exclusion of anything else except for women. That woman that he kept painting, but so it can also be, Columbus is devoted to discovery of things we didn't already know, and people who are minding their own business. But and Einstein's devoted to science. So these devotions unfold the world for us. So there's nothing wrong with devotion. And none of that is the thing that we think of as like devotion to God or devotion to a thing. So it's pretty valuable stuff, devotion. And it's not limited to one thing, although I think those three folks, Picasso and Einstein and Columbus, were pretty much devoted to one thing. And anything that came out of that was okay, but they were pretty fully engrossed in what they were doing. And which happens to people when they are fully committed to something, and it's a big thing. Like the Buddha was fully committed to intelligence, and at the end of intelligence you run into love, compassion, and arrive at wisdom. And you can be devoted to love, and then you end up with the opposite of love, wisdom. And you put the two together, which is what we're attempting to do. Taylor's sitting over there. Look,
I'm sorry.
like,
I have a
like
sty
a
eye.
stoner at a rock convention.
I
It's all
know.
right. No, we appreciate having you.
So it's like swollen, and then the bright light doesn't help. So I was like, I'll come, but I'm wearing sunglasses.
Sunglasses are fine. Every person has their own. In fact, in Seb's case, it might be an improvement. In my case, definitely. All right. Anyway, I just observed you sitting over there like you sneaked into a movie. Stoned.
Is there any other way?
Is there any other way? So how do you not to put pressure on you, Taylor, but how do you feel about devotion?
Yeah, I was looking at it too, and it seems closely related to will as well, because it is an energy that you're putting forth towards something. So will's included, but I agree with Seb. It's like giving of your very self. It's
Right.
So what are you going to put that energy towards? Your energy.
Right. And our business, our foundation, the Love Foundry, this podcast, is devoted to empowering people with love, which is a fairly narrow focus. There's a lot of people devoted to love in one form or another, loving another person, loving something like art. And so we're looking at it from the empowerment point of view. And that to me is a complete focus. And I'd like to make the distinction in that focus between love and wisdom at some point here, because that's how we emerge from this moment we're in time. The whole world, if you'll notice, is on fire, right? It's on fire with what's going on in it, everything going on in it. War and argument and chaos. But in the midst of all of that, something else is being born. And those who can't see that are troubled by the potential for chaos, which we have. We have a lot of potential for chaos. I mean, Putin keeps talking about, I'm going to push the button down. I'm going to push the button down. I'm going to push the button down. Don't push me. I'm going to push the button down. Stuff like that. And we don't want to nuke the world. But we also have been born in the midst of all of this chaos that's going on in the world, the thing that's causing all the chaos. And there is an expression in the esoteric world that says perfection drives imperfection to the surface. So what we have is the perfection that only love can give or bring or lead us into, pushing all that which is in us, that is avoiding that outcome in our lives and to the surface of our lives so that we can judge it, look at it, decide what we are going to devote ourselves to, and act abundantly. And when I look at the two great approaches to living are the Eastern approach, which approaches it through wisdom. And as said, Buddhism is not a religion. A lot of people think of it as a religion, but it's not. It's a practice. And if you go into the Yoga Sutras, which were written down by Patanjali, or Pantanjali, however you pronounce him, somewhere back a few thousand years ago, you see that we are taking an intelligent approach to understanding life by mastering how it works. And the Yoga Sutras are conversations, deepening conversations. When you go from the book 1 to book 3, you get deeper and deeper into this conversation about what we're doing to make ourselves manifest in the world intelligently. The rest of us not studying Buddhism are simply making it up as we go along. But over in the West, we took a more devotional approach. And we made that approach towards expressing love. But if you put the two together, then you get a unified approach. And a unified approach to life is going to be the hallmark of the whole Aquarian age cycle that's just coming into focus right now. In fact, it's not even in focus. It's just finally getting started. What would you think, Taylor, would, just to keep your stoner look involved, what do you think the outcome is going to be of the Aquarian age for humanity? If things go well, if we don't push the button down and blow ourselves up and do those silly ideas.
Well, I've heard it's supposed to be a golden age. Yeah. It's supposed to be a time of peace and, I think, though, that it's going to be the time where love comes into human consciousness in a way that makes reality an entirely different experience than what we're currently call reality. I think it's going to change everything. Do you want me to laugh?
I see you got a little wind going on around your place. I see the bushes, but not that I was bored with your conversation. I think it was illuminating, but I just looking at you, I see this stuff over here. Mm-hmm. So you got a little wind going, do you, over there in Maui?
Yeah, the trade winds, the north wind.
Oh, I don't want to hear about the trade winds.
The winds of change, we'll call it. Yeah. Things are changing, all
Seb,
this talk of perfection driving imperfections to the surface, and then you got all this, the world is on fire conversation, and it's not just our conversation. It's it's on the world conversation too. I actually listened to Donald Trump give a speech the other day, and it was the first time I heard anyone kind of shed light on like in an honest way about the situation in Ukraine and about how it's the breadbasket of the world, and that effect alone, and how there's nothing, it's just fields, it's open, there's nothing.
It's the flattest place on earth.
And he says he sees images that remind you of like old Civil War imagery. He said there's not been this much carnage since World War II, and
Yeah,
at least,
it's a
and
mess.
that's coming from a person that has a, you know, a different outlook than probably the average person.
Well, yeah, because Putin wants the land back, all of it. Because that place down there, when you don't think of it because we don't live there, but that land down there where Ukraine is the largest, flattest place on earth that is extraordinarily rich growing land, because it comes down out of the Ural Mountains. So, and has for centuries. So they do grow an immense amount of wheat, and we need to get it back online. That's part of what Trump is upset about it in his personal worldview, is we need to get that land producing wheat and exporting it to the world, so that we don't have mass starvation, which is headed our way like an express train.
Well,
When
they're
you screw up
experiencing it too, yeah, down
Oh,
in
yeah,
Africa,
no.
especially.
And that doesn't concern Putin. It just gives incentive for people to tell Ukraine to give up and give the land back to Putin, because you can't beat him. He's too big a play. He's too big a guy, or too big a country, or something. Anyway, that's part of what's going on. And it is going to be a mess, because while that's collapsing in the world, that relationship that was going, it was a pretty good relationship for a while. They were growing wheat and exporting it, and some until war broke out, as they say. But everything else is collapsing simultaneously. The civilization is a dead on its feet, and it's not going to come back to life any more than the Roman civilization came back to life. It will just collapse and shatter and fall into other pieces and be rebuilt into another civilization. Hopefully one closer to the idea of love and less of war. That would be hoped for. Now, what do you see as the new age opportunity for things, Seb? I mean, I'm just inquiring because I want to get a feeling for where we're going here.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely think it's about love, and I think it's the time when the most amount of people are going to be able to consciously be able to have some sort of grasp of what love is, that there's something outside of the life that they've been living in the sort of material, and having some sort of idea and relationship with love, and there's something beyond the material. And I also think it's a time when there's going to be people who are going to be living from that place and offering that to the people. But I think the biggest shift is going to be in a vast amount of people getting to a place where they're at least receptive to it, and have some idea of it. I think that's going to be
I think that's an excellent, hopeful idea.
It makes me. Well, I have a question for you, Dan.
Yes.
Because I look at it more as, not that I'm disagreeing, but I look at it more as a human consciousness experience. So once enough humans, let's just say it's not even half, let's say it's 10% of humans are conscious of this thing we call love, and it's a conscious living relationship, then doesn't that affect the entire consciousness of all humanity?
I think
to get to that collective.
one person enormously affects it. Jesus, conscious of love, has impacted the entire world, not 10%.
Yeah.
So, and the Buddha, conscious of wisdom and the nature of it and what it is, has had an enormous impact on half of the world's population, minimum. The Buddha, interestingly enough, is more popular now than he ever was during the 80 years that he taught people, which is interesting because he and Jesus came to their point of awareness at the same age, 33. except that he had a more fortunate outcome in terms of longevity. So you're right, though. It's kind of the 100th monkey thing. How many people does it take before it becomes a common understanding? And those are intellectual concepts. And that doesn't show you what's going to happen. And devotion to love as an intellectual concept, what love is intellectually, and I say that so that you'll differentiate it from devotion to love as a living energy in you, identified with you, or you identified with it. Because one is a picture in your mind about something, and the other is a direct relationship to it. And devotion, if it's going to be impactful on our lives, whether it's art or science or geography, needs to be directly to that which you are devoted to in a way that brings it into manifestation with you, and not to the idea of it. We could write a book on art, or we would be devoted to the idea of science or the idea of geography, or we can be devoted directly to those things and what they represent as direct experiences. And love is no different. Neither is wisdom, by the way.
It's almost like it's not devotion to love, it's devotion with love.
Well,
If that makes
towards
sense.
it. Towards it until it, and look, when you're devoted towards something, it implies some things that people don't normally think about, like the fact that you are not there yet. If I'm devoted to going to Chicago, that means I'm not there yet. Now, I could be devoted to Chicago and be living there, or I could be devoted to the idea of Chicago as a big city. So you see, there are three different things, and that's not a game. That's just a way in which you can live. So if you're devoted to love, you can be in it, of it, as some have been and are. And there you're just growing into greater depth with it and understanding of it and capacity to express it. Then you're empowered by it. Or you could be devoted to it in terms of I'm on my way to making that a living part of my life, a genuine part of my expressed experience. No matter what I do, wherever I'm doing it, digging a hole in the yard, I'm going to be doing it with love as my companion. So, and I look at this from the standpoint of putting it all together in one place, which is possible because we're all together in one place. We're part of life. We're everything that life holds is in us. Every single thing. There's not any other life. There's other life that you're not conscious of, but it's in you already. You've already taken a breath. You've already got the burning fire in you of existence. You've got self. The rest is just how much. So if you include love in there, then you're empowered by it to that degree that you actually are conscious of it at that moment. And that's under the idea, and you can reject the idea or like it, that which you're not conscious of for you at that moment just doesn't exist. It just doesn't exist. That rooster out there that you occasionally hear in Seb's, in Taylor's case, the Maui rooster population is amazing. But it is, they don't have that many natural enemies. So when they got there and started breeding, they thought, oh, how good is this? Well, if you're not conscious of it and you put it out of your mind as quickly as you can once the thing shuts up, then it doesn't really exist for you. We know the rooster's out there somewhere unless the hawk got it. And we don't know. It's like Schrodinger's cat. Is it in the box alive or is it in the box dead? We don't know about the rooster because he's out of our conscious reach right now. So he doesn't exist for us. We could know because we can wait for him to crow again because they don't need dawn to do it. They'll crow any damn time they want, night or day. Or we could go out and start looking around for the rooster. Now, he exists potentially. You believe he's out there, but you don't know. You see, the difference between belief and knowing is really important in this process of devotion and in acquiring love. You know the rooster's out there probably 99% because he just crowed a few minutes ago. And so what the hell? Nobody's probably killed him yet for stew. So we looking around, poking the bushes, see if we find ourselves a rooster. But until we see him, until we hear him, we don't know. Now, he's in our mind as a possibility, as a potential. So these are things that we need to observe about ourselves if we're going to get into this department of love and wisdom, which is going to change everyone's life. Well, you're going to have to get past the idea that it's the sloppy idea about it and get down to some direct connections. If you're going to devote yourself to love as a reality, you have got a wise use of your energy. Now, you can devote yourself to a lot of different things. Seb's devoted to being in England, and so there he is. And who'd want to leave there in the winter and go to Maui where Taylor is? So we could be devoted to a number of different things. Living in a place with good weather, devoted to love, devoted to the wisdom of the Buddha. They're not anything like mutually exclusive. Taylor, in spite of her stoned look, is sitting in a place where she can be doing all of that simultaneously, and probably is, because you're devoted to manifesting wisdom, because that seems like a really smart idea to do, but don't know exactly what that is. You know, if you get away with stealing money from the bank down the street, that doesn't make it a wise thing to do. So wisdom isn't just what you get away with doing. I made it to the gas station before I ran out of gas, so that's wisdom. No, it requires more than that, but nobody wants to really do the hard work of looking directly at wisdom and saying, what is this stuff? Well, the Buddha did, and proved it, and perfected his mind in doing it, and realized one incredibly important thing. Without love, you got butkus. There's nothing there without love. There's knowledge there, information there, things that can be done. But until you do that with love, it's not wisdom. That's what makes knowledge wisdom. It connects to love, and it connects to love through your will. And then when you apply will, love, and intelligence together in a single act of any kind, wisdom appears. Wisdom will appear naturally, automatically, inevitably. Not because of the will, although it's an important ingredient. Not because of the knowledge, although that's an important ingredient. But because of the love and what love is. Its inner power to unite. Its inner power of transformation and transmutation. Its inner qualities of grace. All these things that make love what love is, when you include it with knowledge and will, wisdom appears. And it could be little wisdom, helping somebody put a worm on a hook. Now, that's not friendly to the worm, and it's not very loving to the worm, but it's transferring understanding and knowledge to maybe a child who's fishing because the family needs fish to live. So there's no cut and dried hard way in which we can analyze this. But what we can do is learn to recognize it. And at the same time that sharing the knowledge through love of a child of how to fish is wisdom, we can also recognize that taking a life like a worm and shoving a hook up its ass is not necessarily love. So it's like we can argue about it and be contradictory and do all those things. But until we get better at understanding intelligence and will and love and all the elements of our expression with other things in the shared living of it, we're not going to be able to finish those arguments out. We're not going to get down to the bottom line, which may be that we quit killing worms and eating fish. I don't know. You can become a pescatarian, a vegetarian, and any kind of tarian you want. But I think that what's going to happen, and we're talking about the new age, and I think that what we're doing here and what's important to consider here is what's going to happen inside of Seb if he steps into the new age and stays on the path that he's on. You, Taylor, I don't know, maybe the Maui Wowie will just take over. But I don't think so. I think in the new age, you're going to find that you have a synthesis of all the things that have come before. And when we stop saying that, oh, we got something new now, we got Christianity now, we've got fusion power now, we've got electric cars. So everything that went before that is no longer necessary. Forget it, throw it all away. If we stop thinking like that, as if some linear progression were the direction of life through past, present, and future, and that's how it all ran. If we stop thinking that and accept the synthesis of things as they come together, expanding the creation of things into a better and better way to be, then we might come to the conclusion that because the Buddha died 500 years before Christ did not make him obsolete. Like I said, he's got more popular now. He's got this 1.5 billion people that celebrate Wesak, which is the birthday of the Buddha and the birthday of his ascension. And what else? Something else. The day of his death was actually the full moon of Wesak too. So all three of those are his, if you want them. And that's the full moon of May, I think, is when that comes along. So there's a big celebration going on worldwide for this guy.
I think it's in Taurus, whenever it's in Taurus.
Taurus, that's right. Well, May is Taurus. And so not all of May, but Taurus, you're right. Full moon of Taurus.
Mm-hmm.
And so, and that's not in any way to cast shadow on love or the work of the Christ consciousness or Jesus or any of the people who follow that particular focus. You see, if you make love your entire focus, then you demonstrate something like Jesus demonstrated. He was pretty focused on love, not wisdom. That was being done by somebody else. That's the Buddha's job. And when you get to levels of beings like that, who are pretty developed beings, they tend to focus on what their work is, and they leave others to do their work, because it's their work alone is big enough. It's a cosmic progress. So focusing on wisdom was the Buddha's pretty much universal job, which is fortunate because it's a big topic and we need it. Focusing on love and bringing that forth into human consciousness was pretty much the work of Jesus and all those who preceded him on that path, which is in some ways the entire Jewish culture, because you realize it was out of that culture that he came. And that's not small, and that's not accidental. And so, and there are other things that we should take a look at that we got from all the other civilizations that we so casually have tossed aside, like the Babylonians and the Egyptians and the Hindu. And so do we think that their contributions weren't equally valuable? Well, until we have inclusiveness and bring all those together, that we won't know. But if we start with a devotion to love instead of a devotion to an ego, I could be devoted to the Buddha, which means I'm devoted to the path of intelligence, to wisdom. Or I can be devoted to love and on the path of the Christ and that consciousness. But I could also be devoted to a synthesis of love, intelligence, and will, because that's the trinity of the planet. For whatever reason, we've divided the universe into three: will, love, intelligence. And right now we're sort of finishing up love. We got a lot of will and we direct it all over the place. So then we needed intelligence to get practical with the will. So we could learn how to fish and learn how to build things and learn how to shoot cars into space like Elon Musk. Now we have switched our attention around a little bit to focusing on love, which is the Father, Mother, and Son aspects of the Trinity. I didn't make up the Trinity, but somehow it seems to have stuck with the world. Now the scientists can just say there's no such thing as a Trinity. Okay, that's fine. But we do have will, and we do have intelligence, and we do have love. Now, what's left out of that? Well, things that life may have that we haven't yet discovered, like the meaning of freedom, real meaning of freedom, not our little pissy free will. But free will leads to freedom. There's no other way to put it. And I believe in human experience that freedom itself is more important to us overall than any of the others. We don't really rush into death for intelligence.
I agree.
You can get that shit anywhere. I don't care. You can. I know how to dig a clam. I don't need to worry about someone taking away my ability to dig for clams, which takes a certain amount of intelligence. If you want to go shoot clams, you got to know how. So, and will, I don't worry about. You can stop me from doing something by threatening me or whatever, but you can't take away my willingness to do something. Now, love, I'm working on best I know how, because I think that when you add it to the other two, you get closer to freedom. But I also am not going to let you take away my freedom. Can't do it. It's worth fighting for. It's worth dying for, because without freedom, you can't love. Without freedom, you can't gain more intelligence. Without freedom, you can't apply your will. So when you look down at the world, you think to yourself, this freedom thing seems to be something lodged in the heart of humanity that says, you can do a lot of stuff to these people, but if you take away their freedom, you're going to have some trouble with them. They're going to rebel against that. But we don't really even know what the full expression of freedom would be. But I think it will come into focus for humanity once they learn more about love. Because then you will say, wow, if I had this love thing perfected, a living thing in me that had no flaws whatsoever, perfect love, and I blend that with intelligence, and then I blend it with will, then everything I create, because love is what you create with. You can't create with anything else. There's no other creating power. You can gather things, which is what a lot of people think creation is. But if you want to actually give birth to a creation, you're going to need love somewhere in the mix. So if we combine those elements in the middle of the new age, where Seb's going to find himself after a couple of more reincarnations, and he's combined love and intelligence and will, then he knows that he can be given by life, not by him, although he'll give it to himself. But he'll know that he has earned the opportunity in the universe to be given freedom, the freedom to create, no matter what. Go for your life. Because whatever he creates, perfect love will be an automatic part of his creation. And when we know that, and we know what love is, then we know that it will harmonize itself with all other things, that it will be harmless to all other things, that it will synthesize itself with all other things, that it will be a perfect fit in the universe, no matter what it is, because you're not going to create without love. Now, this supposes some things that you could argue about if you want, that may not be true. Like, once love is in, are you going to create something without it? Well, you can think, yes, I will. Under certain circumstances, I might just sink the Bismarck. I might go out and shoot Seb because he's caught that rooster out in my yard, ate him. But you won't. I don't think that's possible. Once Seb fully accepts his relationship to love, once he becomes transformed by it, transfigured by it, and becomes an expression of love and intelligence and in will fully, I don't see him going back to less than that. Do you, Seb?
No.
No. Would you prefer to have a full blend of those three, a robust human?
Yeah.
Yeah. Do you think it's possible?
Especially the love. Yeah,
Well,
no, it's absolutely possible.
yeah, it is possible, I think. Now, I think it's possible not just because I've seen it done. I wasn't there when Jesus did his miracle stuff. But I've got a pretty good grounding in reality myself. And I look at the evidence of life and I see that that's a demonstration that went on there. Well, we dated time from it, so it must not have been a badly done thing. So I think it's possible. And I want to prove it's possible because I think it would be really worthwhile. And if the story is correct, then anyone can do it. Taylor can do it. Even stoned, you can do it, Taylor. Because it's a heart thing. And the heart thing doesn't require a whole bunch of other stuff. It just requires a direct connection to the living presence. And I think that's why devotion to love opens up the heart in ways that you don't have to go to college for. I think there's a school of love, and I think there are masters of love who teach in the school of love all over the planet, people who are really sincerely interested in growing into a deeper relationship to love. I'm convinced of that personally. And I think you don't need that person in your personal experience, in your physical experience, to have that, to be a part of that school of love. And everybody who wants it is in it. You know, there's the old saying, what is it? Where there's a student, there is a teacher. Well, if you're a student of love, Seb, and you sincerely want that, then you have come to the attention of some teacher of love and are probably being helped in some way towards that goal. That would be a nice thing to imagine. And if you're going to devote yourself to love in the sense of willingness to grow into it and learn more about it and become proficient in it yourself, then it's on its way to you. And a commitment to that releases all those secondary things in life that would never have happened had you not been committed to it. The moment you commit yourself to love as a lesson in life, not that it's the only one. You know, as I say, Picasso loved art, and his commitment to being good at it opens up a lot of things coming towards him that otherwise would never have been born in his life had he not been committed. And that commitment had to be sincere and real, and we see from the evidence that it was. He followed through. Now, there's a lot of things about him that other people said were a little bit this and a little bit that. He wasn't universally loved as a person, but his art was certainly respected. And that's true of the rest of them as well, who were the great artists. And so Einstein had a lot of limitations personally. Someone said he had a hard time trying to run a can opener because it wasn't his field of knowledge. But when it came to what he was good at, you couldn't come near him. That's commitment. How do you fill a blackboard full of all of those silly symbols that are up there, little triangles and squigglies and dots and shit? How do you do all that and make sense out of it unless you're really committed to it? So love, going past all of that, instead of loving your commitment to math or to science or to discovery of the world, what happens if you just commit to love itself, if you're devoted to love itself? And I differentiate that from being devoted to somebody who sells love for a living, or someone who demonstrates love like Jesus did, or the Buddha who does wisdom leading to compassion. I don't want to devote myself to people or idols or ideals even. But I think the thing itself in nature, whatever it is, whatever's meant by that word, that's something worth having. And we will have it when we devote ourselves towards it, when we commit ourselves to acquiring it, and then when we act on those commitments until we get it. And I think if you're empowered by it, your life transforms dramatically into an expression of it, an expression that's really worth having. Now, how you gonna get there from here? Because I think humanity's synthesizing everything that's happened before into a fusion of wisdom, knowledge, love, and will demonstrate what we think of as the new age. And I agree with you, Taylor. There will be maybe a small percentage of the population who do it with any degree of do we all get one of those water bottles? Because that looked like a pretty good drink.
It's just water, unfortunately.
I don't know. I got my coffee. I don't care.
Well, I have a question.
Well, wait, let me finish. The small percentage, because if I don't conclude the thought, then it leaves it hanging. A small percentage of the people of the earth who do that, you're 10%, which will probably never be 10% in our lifetime, but it'll start out and grow. I think there's things coming towards us that are going to make this a contagion. You know, a wildfire starts with a spark somewhere because Seb thought the fire was out when he went home and the wind blew and up she went. It starts with a spark, and then pretty soon you've got conflagration. And I think love is like that. I think the heart of humanity has been so tenderized by suffering that it's ready to see it, embrace it, and reveal to itself that it owns this already within itself, and it's time for it to happen. And then it can go all over the world, which doesn't make everybody good at it. It simply makes everybody in on the deal, except for those who say, screw love, I'm going to stick with hatred and violence and selfishness, and that makes my day go. And okay, if it does, it does. But I think that's going to take over the world, and it's going to make those people who are on that path say, look around the world and go, who's good at this? Is anybody good at this stuff? And those people will appear before their eyes. They're like, yeah, I'm pretty good at this. And those will be the people who studied perhaps in previous lifetimes, or perhaps since they were children, in love and in wisdom, and have synthesized it in themselves and are prodigies in it, and just are like, yeah, sure, I know how to put this stuff to work. And they then rise towards the top because people look at them and go, you see the way their life is working over there? What are you doing? Well, I'm applying love and wisdom to growing crops, and my crops are pretty damn good. So then they want to know how to do that. Or I'm applying it to other things, and it's working out pretty good. So I think what we do is we find the people who are doing that, and we put them in charge. They don't want to be in charge. Believe me, the people who are really good at love, wisdom, they do not want to be in charge. They want to be creating with love, wisdom, and minding their own business. But they also have love and wisdom in them, so they can't turn it down. So they will organize themselves in such a way that they can keep that going and still go do what they're doing. That's possible too. So they'll put them in charge by acclamation. And the people who want to act some other way, using will and intelligence without love, which is what you get with dictators, they will be told to stand down, go grow potatoes, leave us alone. We like this. We want to go more with this. Well, that's what we're figuring out right now in the world, I think, everywhere. Everybody's looking at the world right now saying, what are we missing here, and how can we find it? And look, we're not the guys to put in charge, obviously. But there are those out there that are much better at love and wisdom and the synthesis of the two, which is more to the point, than we are. And this is what it takes to do that, to be one of those people. You can study the wisdom, read the Yoga Sutras, be a disciple of the Buddha. But you're going to have to make yourself conscious of love. In your awareness, right now, while you're sitting, if you've got consciousness of love in you, and you've got all that knowledge, your next act is going to be an intelligent, loving act. It's just axiomatic. So the blend of that in us is where it goes. And like the rooster out there, which no one's thought about for a few minutes. And so for us, that rooster hasn't existed. I'm sure it's over there chasing some hen around in somebody's yard. But for us, it's been gone. So how do you make yourself conscious of love all the time? So that whatever you turn your attention to, whatever you apply yourself towards, like this podcast, love is included in whatever actions we're taking. Well, we have to be aware of it. We have to make our consciousness shift out of the lazy habit of not being conscious of love and into the continuous habit of being aware of it. And that is so foreign to human conduct that we don't even know how to do it. But you can want to do it. You could devote yourself to doing it. You could commit to doing it. And if you do that and apply yourself to it, you'll do it. It'll eventually just start to lift you. And rather than you trying to remember to love every second of the day, we'll discover that we're just loving every second of the day. But not some illusionary emotional image of loving, the actual energy of love itself coming through here, floating out into the space with us on every breath we take, every word we speak, every act we take towards another. That energy goes with us. It goes out with us, right out through us. If that's a condition of your existence, what kind of a person are you? That's my question. What kind of a person would you be, Taylor, if that were going on with you?
A loving one.
Well,
An alive one.
Alive, both alive and loving. That's a pretty good combination. Now, you're a mother of kids. God knows you're a mother of kids. So you're already there, because when you're in action with loving your child because they're doing something and you're helping them do something, obviously you're included that. Now, Seb has no kids, so he probably isn't even in the bull's roar of it. But what do you think that would be like, Seb? Or do you think it's possible? It's okay to think it's not possible.
No, it's absolutely possible.
There are days I'm not sure myself whether that's possible.
Well, I know it's possible because I don't live that way 100% of the time, but I know when I am living that way. So I know it's possible, and I know how that feels and the importance of it. I know it's important when I'm doing it because, well, I feel it. And I know it's a completely different way for me to walk in the world. I was practicing it. So obviously I'm back in England, and I was walking through the local town, which for me, I don't know why I have a strong reaction to being here, but I feel uncomfortable all of the time. And walking through this,
did they run you out of town on a rail when you left? Or?
maybe not this lifetime, but it certainly feels that way. But walking through this town, it especially was triggering, and I was sort of, feeling kind of in my shell about it. I just suddenly had a thought. I was like, I'm of no use or benefit walking through this way. I was like, I just have to love it. All of these judgments and reactions I'm having to everything around me, I have to love every aspect of it, every person, everything that is in my awareness. So I just did that, and it just allowed me to kind of drop all of that and just.
Well, how did you do that?
This. How is a good question. I had to settle down the part of me that was just looking and judging everything, and all of the sort of emotional reaction that was coming from that. I had to just settle and calm all of that down. And I did that because I knew the importance of changing that. And then I just kind of really became present with walking through that space and just looked at everything. And rather than making a snap judgment about it, I looked at what's right with it and what about it is in need of it being seen in love, and just offering that out and just trying to be a channel. And I was also calling in sort of support from
Okay.
yeah,
And
whatever
without going through
connections I have.
the entire litany of your practice, because that's what we all do. We have a practice, and I have a practice. And when I find myself in a place where I need to intensify my practice, and here's why. Now you come to America where we are, it's no better than England. It's no different, really.
Yeah.
It's just it's been done by different people than you're familiar with, Americans, who were basically English, Irish, German, Scotch, all these kind of things. And a plus, but we threw in everybody else too. We got Chinese, and we got African, and we got all the other Europeans. We got everybody here, plus the American Indians that we've beat up and abused, who were here already when we got here. So we have a different combination of elements that we've created, the towns that you walk through. And if you walk through little towns in America, all over America, you see it's all different kinds, different combinations, but it's all the same. It's the best we could do up to this point in time, which is what that little town is you're walking through. What's the name of that town?
I was going through Worthing at the time.
Worthing.
Yeah.
So we could zero it out on Google Maps, but it wouldn't tell us much with it.
No, it's a little seaside town where a lot of people went to retire.
Oh, well, seaside's good. That's got some excitement there, a little ocean out there somewhere. But it's all put together by people who came there with hopes and dreams and desires, and they created it, and it resisted them to some degree, and so they ended up where they were. And now you walk through it and you can look at all the things that went wrong and the history of all the things that didn't work out exactly the way they were hoped for. And you can fill yourself with all of that, which you can do easily because you grew up in it. I can do that in little town America because I can see all those hopes and dreams and failures and successes of those people because I know who they are. Now, I might not know that if I went down to some Cajun town in New Orleans because I'm not from there. But if I'm up in Alaska or somewhere where I am from, or up in Oregon or over in some other part of the country, then I can probably do that pretty well. The point is, it's all there and it's all true because we're imperfect. And what are we imperfect in? We're imperfect in love. Were you perfect in love, then whatever you created and every one of them created would have been an expression of perfect love, which would have been pretty nice, probably, because it would have been in harmony with nature. It would have been in harmony with everybody else's desire. It would have been in harmony with art and beauty and intelligence and truth and will. And it would make a pretty nice town. Maybe one of those little gingerbread towns like you find up in the Alps or something. I don't know. But all of those little gingerbread towns, too, have their limitations. But there's just as much love there as there is in what was the name of that town again? Worthing.
Worthing, yeah.
Worthing, not Worthington, or
no, Worthing.
Just plain Worthing. All right. But whether it's in Africa or South America or anywhere else, the reflection of the people in their surroundings represents the best they could do up to that moment. Now, increasing their capacity to love is only going to create the beauty, only increase the beauty and art and intelligence of what they live in. Now, Maui's got so much good going for it that You don't have to do a lot of that because there's just so much natural beauty to it. So what Taylor's mob is doing is probably just bringing the place down, right?
Alaska too. Alaska's like that.
Yeah, it's just so damn big. It takes a lot of us to really screw it up.
It's so big and it's so beautiful.
It is
And
beautiful.
everywhere you look. Yeah.
Yeah, no, nature still rules. And if you don't think so, then just wait till winter and trudge outside and head down the road and see how far you get before you realize nature still rules here. But the increase in love is what we're talking about. And increasing it in you is going to benefit them. See, because you're radiating it out of you. And this is different from having an idea in love and studying on love. Go get a degree at the university and what love is. It's the application of it through yourself to the environment in which you find yourself is where the rubber meets the road. And we're not very good at applying love to the environment we're in, personally, individually. There are some who are pretty good at it in many ways. Some architects can apply themselves lovingly to the environment and create some really beautiful things to live in or look at or watch. But that doesn't mean they're not shits in the rest of their life. We don't know who they are. Maybe the guy goes home and beats his wife, or she goes home and we won't talk about that. But the point is this: being 100% good at love covers the boards. It doesn't mean I'm 100% good like Picasso at art, except I'm building buildings or making birdhouses or driving a taxi or running a general store or any of the other things that humans do. I'm good at love itself. I have made that my quest. I've made that my quest to fill myself with this capacity to express no matter what I'm doing. But I'm going to need the intelligence of the Buddha so that love can demonstrate as wisdom. And we have to focus on this because there's too much generality going on. And it's not that what I'm telling you is true, but you have to focus on how true is it. Because wisdom does not appear out of intelligence until love is poured into it. Then the action taken demonstrates as wisdom because it doesn't befoul life. It doesn't besmirch it. It doesn't damage it accidentally. That's wisdom is the perfect expression of intelligence with will, which can only be done through love. Love has a perfect expression. That's its point of view. So love applied intelligently with will is going to give us wisdom as a result. Now you've got to be able to access intelligence in order to produce that. But love is so intelligent that you're going to automatically find what it is you need, intelligence-wise, to make that a wise action.
Excuse me just a moment.
Yeah, sure. Taylor's got a mob out there probably tearing the house apart. So, so if you come upon that child trying to put a worm on a hook to catch a fish to take home to his family for dinner, then you have a chance to apply love and help him do that or her and catch the fish and go on about their life, even though you might think, damn, sorry about that little worm. And then you check off in the back of your mind, I got to figure out a way to do something for the worms because it's just not right sticking them on hooks. And so you think to yourself, okay, well, maybe I could create a food to catch fish with that didn't require killing worms. And then your mind says, oh, but then he's going to kill the fish when he catches it. So we're in sort of this little death spiral because we're eating the fish. So it's like, okay, let's just teach him how to put the worm on the hook and we'll work out the other stuff later. And that's just part of how we live. But it doesn't mean you don't love the child, and it doesn't mean you're not growing in that ability to love. And you also just may not have the time to stop and teach people how to live without the necessity of fishing. So which some do. And there's some fabulous examples of how all of this works out in nature in terms of love applied intelligently with will. And we'll talk about them, particularly as that wonderful woman who saved the seahorses in the Philippines. That's a fantastic story. And there's just a number of stories like that of people who take the trouble in their life to go change the circumstances of others that are having difficulty by applying love and intelligence and will and persevering until that change transforms, until that good appears, and then going, thank you very much, I'll see you later, and go back and do it somewhere else. And that happens all over the world by people who do dedicate themselves to that kind of relationship to humanity and to animals and nature and God, I guess. I don't know. So we're looking at devotion for a moment. We're going to end this up because it's going to be Christmas if we don't quick. And Seb's got to go out and gather coal and things or whatever you guys do over there in Waring. You still burning coal in Waring?
No, we got rid of the fireplace for an electric one.
Oh, jeez. Well, you probably cut down all the trees already anyway, right?
Yeah, they're all gone.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so might as well go to something else. But they're generating that electricity by oil and gas somewhere. Unless you guys got a big nuclear plant in the middle of the place.
No, not yet.
Not yet. I think fusion power is coming along pretty quick, which is an application that lets love apply itself in a way that we hadn't figured in the past. And then we can light up things and Waring with electricity for cheap, for practically nothing. Soon, it's coming soon. Of course, the fusion power people have been saying soon for the last 50 years. You ask them,
it's funny because it comes from the most unusual places. Now they got to generate so much power for AI that you have
that thing better work.
Resources in the world that are going to throw money at this thing soon.
No, AI is going to drain the power supply of the whole world.
Mm-hmm.
Because you don't think it, but it's like most of the energy you burn up in the day is probably being burned up by your brain, processing all of the computing that you have to do to get through your day. It burns enormous. We know that, Taylor. We can see that. That's sort of self-evident. But but you're a mom, and that means you're burning a lot of energy taking care of kids and taking care of a husband who's a bigger baby than you are. We get it. We get how it all works. All right. So devotion to love pulls it towards us. Not because we want to possess it. You're not going to possess love. Eventually, if you're lucky, it will possess you. And you can then shift your identification over to love, and then you'll realize, oh, that's why nothing's been working for 3 million years. That's why everything's been temporary. That's why nothing we've done has had any lasting impact except the Great Wall of China, because we haven't been applying love. So, well, let's do that. And that's going to make a difference, but not if we don't bring it into our experience and make it happen. So now you're going to have to do it individually. I'm going to have to do it individually, or I've got nothing to talk about. I can't say to somebody, why don't you empower yourself with love if I'm not doing that myself? And the knowing, which is the ability to do it, that comes with practicing it, is what we need, us three need, in order to be able to express it intelligently to others, which is why we're working on it. This podcast is not for those people out there that may or may not ever watch it or listen to it. It's for us so that we can become better at empowering ourselves with this unique property called love, and then be able to apply it in such a way that it's easy to demonstrate to others. And that demonstration is how the whole thing is going to unfold.
Yeah.
Now, if someone shows up, knocks on our door and says, hey, I'm really good at this. Can I join your podcast? Hell yes. Come on in. Because we want that more than we care do podcasts. I got a lot of other things I could do. Swing in a hammock like Taylor's been doing. hanging out over
That's
there,
all I do.
telling your husband, just take care of the kids, I'm taking a break. Or
Make
over
me a
there
pina
in
colada.
yeah, have another pina colada. Or Seb over there in England doing God knows what they do in winter over there. I have no idea. They breed like rabbits, so we know part of what they're doing over there. But I just can't imagine a winter in Waring.
Worthing. But I'm in
Worthing.
Angmering.
So
You're in,
Angmering village. Yeah, the village you love to say.
yeah, whatever root language that came from, that's long been dead. I probably have some Gaelic roots, but I just don't speak it anymore. And there is one place where Gaelic is still spoken, by the way, in case you guys want to go there, and that's in Argentina. Now, how a bunch of Welsh people got to Argentina is another story, which we'll tell at another time. It has to go back to what did they call Patagonia? When Argentina was Patagonia, and probably one of Seb's ancestors was pumping up, hey, you know what would be great? Get your family and get on a boat and go to this place called Patagonia. It's going to be the next big thing.
Well, Falkland is still part of
Yeah, no, it's just north of the
the
Falkland
UK.
Islands. You're going to love it. So somebody got on the boat, and there they still are. Their great, it's hard to imagine when this happened, but their great grandkids are there, and they're still speaking Gaelic. That's how stubborn the Welsh are. Am I right? Are the Welsh stubborn or what?
Not as stubborn as Dan.
No, I've probably got some Welsh in me. I don't know where the hell they came from when they were hanging out. My family's got some English from some part of the countryside. Where was it? Something on Tyne or something like that. Well,
So back to devotion.
Yeah, well, forget about devotion. We've had enough of that. If we can find a way into love, then we'll be successful with that.
Or just being conscious of it.
Yeah.
You know, because you look at love and it's like, how do you devote yourself to life or love? Or these, you know, it seems so big. But if you can just...
You devote yourself to it till you get it.
And
when you get it, you get proficient at it. When you've got it and you're proficient at it, then you can devote yourself to expressing it intelligently with will, which will make you wise. So that's our mission. I mean,
there you are. Write it down, folks. That's it.
Nothing to it. There's really nothing to it. And look, we know how to do it. I honestly know how we can tell folks how to do this. There are a few things you need to do if you want to be good at this. And Seb can tell you because he's just walked down the street of Worthing, demonstrating it. So
it was worthy. It was worth it.
Yeah, it was worth it.
It was worth it. Yeah. Despite my judgments, it was worth it. Yeah.
Yeah. No. Well, that's how you get better at it. There's no other way.
Can you love something and still not like it?
Oh, for quite a while.
Right. Okay.
I've got family like that.
Yeah, don't we all?
And believe me, that's how they think of me.
Oh, I do.
Yeah. Some of them actually love me, but boy, they can barely stand me. I can barely stand me. So I can't blame them.
But can you love you?
Yeah. Well, that's an entirely different question. Because love itself does it, period. It never changes. And once you've got love in you and identified with it, you're going to love everything. And you may not think that because you look around the world and see a few unlovely things outside of what's in Worthington or wherever he's from. There's stuff out there that is just hard to love. But you're going to learn how because it needs love.
Yeah.
And when you love a thing with love, not with some emotional, oh, wouldn't that be nice? Now, when you actually give the energy of love to something, you draw love up in it. You stimulate it in it, and then it pulls it towards the surface. And if you continue to do that with things like plants, they bloom. People bloom too, just like plants, if you water them with love. And everybody who bitches about their husband or their wife or their kid or anything else, You created them in your life that way. Why didn't you water them more with love, and maybe they would be something more to your liking? But we'd like to blame other things other than ourselves.
Fellow podcasters.
Yeah, exactly. So look, we aren't unsure about what we're talking about. We're not perfect in doing it, but we're not unsure in that respect. So thanks, guys, for joining me for this little.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for
Thank
staying
you.
awake, Seb.
It's been a struggle.
It doesn't matter where Seb is. He just falls. He's got the passion to fall
Doesn't
asleep.
matter the time of day.
Send him all the way back to
Sleepy
London,
Seb.
back to England, and he just not. Of course, what time is it there, Seb? I hadn't thought.
Oh, it's like 8:30 p.m.
Oh, it's 8.
No, it's nearly 10.
Oh shit.
Oh, it's time to go out and get dinner somewhere. You guys are European, don't you guys have dinner at
Not
10 o'clock
England.
at night?
Yeah,
No,
we're
no.
not the fun
That's
European
everywhere
kind.
else.
Oh, those are the other
Hard-pressed to get
guys.
dinner
Yeah,
past
those are the
8
other
there.
guys.
Where are
Yeah.
they? Over like in Paris or somewhere?
Italy.
Italy,
Italy.
Spain.
Oh yeah, the Italians are just saying, "Hey, it's
Portuguese.
10." Is it the same time in Italy that it is there?
It depends where in Italy, but there's like a couple hours difference.
So they're over there saying, "Let's roll our sleeves up and get out there and have some dinner."
Yeah.
Well, have a nice evening.
Yeah.
I suppose is there any place open in Waring or where are you wearing? Worthing?
Only the
Worthy.
pubs, maybe, yeah. Worthing, yeah. The pubs
Maybe.
might be.
Maybe the Indian.
of course, the
Indian
pubs.
food.
So you could go.
I won't be going there.
You can toss a
Yeah.
pint before you go to bed.
No, I'll be
All
going
right.
straight to bed.
Anyway,
So
thank you.
Thank you both.
Yeah, and so we didn't open this podcast properly. I apologize, because we need to tune into the fact that love is a living thing in your awareness. It's already there. It's everywhere. It's air. You can't not breathe love in if you take a breath. But that doesn't mean you're aware of it. That doesn't mean you're conscious of its presence in you, which is the goal of all of this. All of this is for you to become conscious of the presence of love in you as a companion in coexistence. If you coexist with it in your consciousness, it's real and it's alive and it's touching everything you touch and it's changing things and it's changing you. See, you have to tune in to feel the sensation of love in your consciousness. It is a sensation. And as numb as we are, no pun intended, Taylor, as numb as we are to love from one thing or another, we can become so alive to it and so sensitive with it that we're constantly delivering. And the ecstasy of doing that, by the way, not to mention the absolute joy at doing that,
Yeah.
but the ecstasy at doing that will make it something that you won't go like, I've had enough. Joy is one of those things where you just like, keep it coming. So we'll get there and we'll raise our own frequencies and we'll bring love in as a companion to our existence, and we'll start delivering it along with our life and our actions and our speech and our thoughts and our feelings, and to the point where we actually become a creative power with love. We will do that.
Even Dan.
Even me.
Even Dan will be joyous.
Yeah.
Stay tuned.
No, I have been at certain moments of my life.
I'm only teasing.
Flickering moments.
You're a freaking ray of sunshine.
Yeah. Oh, absolutely. Yeah, Riz. Not like Maui. Maui's got plenty of it. Yeah, I better come back over and see what's up with it.
Yeah, you do.
Seb, come on back when you've had enough.
I'll be back soon.
There's lots of work for you to do there.
Yeah, there is.
Yeah. And so blessings to everybody, and fife us out, Seb. Play us away.